Business English and language skills. In order to succeed in your job in the business community, you need to have good English speaking skills. Speaking is a productive skill, meaning that you are producing something when you speak. Speaking happens in real time, meaning that you are speaking to somebody at the time and you have the listener in front of you. Then you cannot edit or revise whatever you are saying. You cannot go back on it and try to improve what you have said. Phobia of speaking is a reality which every speaker has faced when they have to make a presentation first time. So this is something which the business English teacher needs to eradicate in the learners. Then how you say something is as important as what you are saying. So the way you are conveying your message is very important. Of course, the content is important, but your manner of conveying is very important. Then important thing is your pace of speaking, whether you are speaking too fast or too slow. That needs to be looked into, and the modulation of your voice. So if we look at the difference between spoken language and written language, you will see that spoken language is auditory, it is temporary, meaning that you speak something and then it is fleeting, it goes away. Then it is full of prosody, it gives immediate feedback, and it needs the planning and editing are limited by the channel. Then as opposed to this, written language is visual, it is permanent and has a delayed reception. It has punctuations, so it indicates the pauses. There are delayed or no feedback, meaning that the reader has got no way to come back and tell you. And unlimited planning and editing and opportunities for revision are there. So oral communication is crucial to the success of any organization, because employees have to keep on communicating with their clients, their customers, people who are international, their competitors, and then students also. They need to keep on communicating with others orally, and they have to give presentations and attend meetings, speak in meetings, and carry out negotiations. So very good spoken skills are required for all of these things, for video conferencing as well as for speaking on the telephone, and for formal and informal presentations, as well as using the voicemail and in meetings. Besides spoken skills, there are verbal and non-verbal skills which are also used in communication. So conscious or unconscious movement of any part of the body that communicates an emotional message will come under non-verbal skills. So various cues can be given through your non-verbal skills. For example, eye contact, facial expressions, your posture will communicate a lot to the person who is seeing you. The proximity, how close you are to something, that will convey what you are trying to say. And then there are multicultural concerns also, because various cultures have got their own ways of giving non-verbal skills. Then your gestures are also important, the way you carry yourself and the way you move your hands and your body. These also convey a lot about what you are trying to say. So how to teach speaking skills? It is an important part of business English teaching. First of all, you have to be aware of the context of speaking. What is the context in which you are speaking? Is the context of a second language learning, where the target language is the language which is spoken in that community? For example, teaching English in England, that would be a second language context, or a foreign language learning context, in which, for example, that French is being taught in Pakistan. So it is not the target language is not the language of communication outside the class in society. So this has to be given importance, and accordingly lessons have to be prepared and practice has to be given to learners according to their context. Then you have to give practice of fluency and accuracy. Accuracy is the speech which matches what people say in a target language, which is usually the correct forms of the language. And then fluency means using language confidently and quickly. So your endeavor should be to give your students practice of both accuracy and fluency in speech, and try to avoid interrupting the speakers when they are speaking, because they would get discouraged and interrupted. Then limit teacher talk. Give students time for pair work and for group work. If it has research shows that teachers talk 70% of the time in the class, which means that learners get less time. So when they work in pairs and groups, then they have more time to talk. Speaking tasks which involve negotiation of meaning. So try to give them certain tasks in which they try to understand what others are saying. So they interact with each other and they try to make themselves understood. And it involves clarifying their own position or what they have said to others, or clarifying others' ideas, confirming what others have said, and checking their own understanding of what has been said. So you should give them practice in both transactional speaking and in interactional speaking. In transaction, you use language in order to get something done, to purchase something or to get a service done. Whereas in interactional speaking, you use language for social purposes. So practice for both these types of activities should be incorporated in your lesson. So transactional, and then you have to, most of these are basically predictable. What you talk in a transactional interaction is predictable, but what you talk about in an interaction is unpredictable. So both types of practices are given to the learners. So speaking skills is a productive oral skill which is contrasted with writing. Speaking a foreign language is difficult. Your students would mostly be learning business English, which for them would be a foreign language. So you have to adjust your lessons according to this context. And it uses different levels of language. Speaking skills use different levels of language. For example, it uses the sounds of the target language. It uses the words, the vocabulary of the foreign language, the syntax of the foreign language, as well as the discourse which the learners would be using in their future workplace.